So there are many potential applications of EFT, and some of them are listed on this slide. I've divided them into various categories. And if you look at the first category that's been highlighted here, that's personal development. So addressing personal development can have subtle effects in many areas of our lives. And when we start to address things and be open to the possibility of changing, we start to see the potential applications of EFT, and they're huge. Increasing our own self-esteem by accepting ourselves as we are is a crucial part of the emotional freedom process, and it's the starting point for any kind of change within ourselves. And this process is actually built into any EFT tapping round, regardless of whether it's for personal development or for anything else. And the statement that we use is, even though I have this problem or pain or whatever it could be, I deeply and completely love and accept myself as I am. This statement is very, very powerful. And in the beginning, it's very difficult to be able to say it. Sometimes you have to say, well, I'd like to be able to accept myself, or I want to be able to accept myself. And as you move along, you find it becomes easier and easier to actually accept yourself as you are. Once you can do that, there are no limits to what you can do. I've worked with several people around personal development, and some of them have been trying to increase their self-confidence around public speaking. Another was having difficulty standing up to a pushy friend who she didn't want to upset, and EFT helped her develop stronger personal boundaries, so that now she's able to calmly stand her ground in a conflict situation in a calm and a respectful way. The next category here is mental pain. Hurts that occur in our minds are directly related to our thoughts. And even though the events are no longer happening, we're able to conjure up the same feelings merely by thinking about those past events. This can also apply to a future event that we have some kind of fear surrounding. It's accepted now that the mental pain we experience is experienced in the same area of the brain as physical pain. And therefore, when you do feel pain due to thoughts, we experience it to the same extent as we do physical pain. So the pain is real. You don't actually have to have some kind of physical injury to feel intense pain from an emotion. By using EFT, it's possible to gradually reduce the emotional reaction we have to remembered events, and therefore release the associated pain. And when the negative emotions are totally released, then we can view events objectively and are unlikely to be reactive when placed in a similar situation in the future. There's a very interesting project going on at the moment in the States, which is addressing PTSD in war veterans, and it's called Operation Emotional Freedom. And there's a very interesting video that goes along with that called The Answer. More information on these can be found if you Google them. Or if you ask me, I can pass on the information to you. And this project obviously has potential to help individuals and families all over the world. I mean, it's huge. EFT is very successful also for treating phobias. And there are many stories about it being used to remove fear of spiders or snakes or drowning and other things that are like that. And recently a friend of mine was going on a long-haul flight for a family reunion, and she was very afraid to fly. We did some EFT tapping around this, and she explored the fear and the thoughts that she had and the emotions that came up when she was thinking about flying. And as they came to the surface, we were able to address each of these as they came up. and the intense fear of flying began to diminish and diminish until finally it was gone. She still has an anticipation, but it's not that intense fear, that heart-pumping, sweating kind of fear that she was getting before. EFT will not actually remove any innate fear of real danger. So if something dangerous is going to happen, that you can't remove that by EFT. It will only remove the unrealistic fear of a perceived danger, something that's not really dangerous, but you feel that it is, and you change your perspective. So the next section is about allergies. And allergies are another set of symptoms that can be addressed with EFT. Stress often makes these kind of conditions worse, even though their initial trigger may be environmental or an inherent sensitivity. EFT helps the immune system by supporting it to work more efficiently from a feeling of calm, and therefore it helps to reduce the severity of the symptoms that are being experienced. Now, physical pain. This is one of the areas where it can be really, really striking and very, very quick. Have you ever noticed that any kind of pain that you might have in your body becomes more acute when you're stressed or when you're depressed? And a negative state of mind will also result in much slower healing. I've actually used EFT on myself to remove severe lower back pain, where my muscles have contracted to the point where I just can't move, can't bend over, can't get dressed, can't do any of those things. And the results were almost instantaneous. I had this pain in my lower back, and as I went through and dealt with the emotional issues that came up as I was tapping, I felt this real warm feeling in the muscles in my lower back. And finally, all the tension just started to just melt away. And it was much faster even than taking a pill for it, a muscle relaxant pill. You can read a little bit more about that story on my website in the blog. And I've also used EFT for repetitive strain injury in my right hand that's caused by too much typing on the computer and using the mouse. Now, there are many EFT practitioners who are highly skilled in treating serious chronic disease. And often they come to treating chronic disease because they've experienced it themselves and they've used EFT to actually recover. Chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia are particularly responsive to this. And diseases involving the immune system are also good targets for EFT treatments. There's a huge scope for expanding studies in this area, and there's several studies taking place via a scientist called Dawson Church, which are yielding interesting results. Clinical researchers, they want to see evidence, they call it evidence-based research, to be able to prove that these techniques are actually working. As a scientist myself, I know that it works because I've seen it. I felt it myself, and I've seen it work in other people. But to actually prove it to a wide range of people, you have to have a very controlled study with several people involved and be able to statistically analyze the results. And these kind of studies are actually going on at the moment.